brand and the distinction of having produced it as well.
Nile Gold Crystal Malt Lager. Beyond an ordinary malt.
Hi, I've got just 30 seconds to list all the destinations in Africa served by Kenya Airways out of Nairobi. Abidjan, Accra, Addis Ababa, Bujumbura, Cairo, Cotonou, Dakar, Dar es Salaam.
He's never going to make it. Kenya Airways covers 70% of all destinations in Africa alone and several more worldwide. If you're starting from Uganda, there is no rush because Kenya Airways operates the most frequencies every day from Entebbe to the hub in Nairobi. So you can pick up any of these connections at your own convenience.
Kenya Airways, the pride of Africa.
Several times up.
Malabo, Mauritius, Mombasa.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90 is brought to you by Stanbic Bank.
Welcome back to Spectrum on Radio, and tonight we're looking at the week just gone by, and our panel tonight, Honorable Mike Sewell, Member of Parliament at the East African Legislative Assembly, also a member of NEC Indian RM, Mr. Nicholas Opio, a legal consultant at Agijul, also a social and political analyst, Mr. Vincent Manja, Deputy Secretary General of the Democratic Party. You might not be able to call him tonight, but you can send us your text message. All you do is type the word Spectrum, put the body of your message, address, and send it to 7197. That is Spectrum. Give message 7197. Mr. Mayanja, we seem to be seeing our 9th Parliament that's a little bit tougher, maybe redolent of the 6th Parliament. Speaker Rebecca Kadaga he took government ministers to task, saying that they were failing to attend the House. On 2 occasions, they rejected positions by the executive. They've sent away many times budgets from the executive, and they say they're coming up with a name and shame initiative. People who don't attend are going to be named without the vice president's name. Are we going to see a tough 9th Parliament that's really independent?
Well, like we were on this program earlier, I say that it seems that this Parliament is trying to reassert itself. What I see today is very encouraging, but I hope they can keep it.
What could change?
Because what we have seen, I really hope that this business of caucusing, then they come to Parliament with one position on issues, is also going to be checked, because that will really bring about independence of the legislature. I had my reservations about Rebecca Kadaga, but I'm beginning to be
getting converted.
Disproved, because I thought that she is not going to make any difference, but I think she's trying to do that. I think the way I'm going to judge them is when really tough things come, because these are small.
What do you mean tough things?
You know, when we start seeing the president wanting something to pass and they resist that, when we see them really...
We saw the women parliamentarians voting 3 opposition people into top offices, rejecting suggestions by the First Lady.
Well, we need to find out why they did. Maybe the First Lady was overzealous and they say no, you can't come, and
that's a sign of independence
and push us around. That's what I'm saying, that if they keep this, then this country is going to be to benefit. We are going to debate later, you have already mentioned, about the budget of State House. I hope they stand down and say this is wrong, and they do it on every policy government is bringing, in order to see that Uganda get value for money.
Let's get your analysis on this. What could change?
What we need to see changing is that we need to see...
What could change? I mean, you say they are on the right track. What could detract them?
Well, the president will weigh in his influence and see where like he has taken them to Raktura. Do you know why he took them there?
Well, he told us to show them gardens.
Yeah, but they had just refused to pass a budget.
Yes.
And then he suggested that.
They still haven't.
Well, I hope they are going to stick to their guns. They are going to maintain that independence, and it's going to be good for the country.
Honorable Sevalu.
Yeah, you know, there are 2 things here. There is independence and rebellion. And I'm not too sure whether
Let's get your definition, sir.
I'm not too sure whether my brother is comfortable with independence or he prefers rebellion.
I want independence.
Let's get your definition.
But the point of the matter is that yes, the independence is there, and Parliament, there is this honeymoon, and Parliament is in high spirits and it is doing a good job. And
But you call it a honeymoon?
yeah, there is always this
grace period.
grace period when because
There's going to be that-
everyone has to make a maiden
Well,
statement.
there's no
And
experiment
normally-
in the issues of the states.
And
There's no honeymoon.
normally maiden statements bring out your
Out of
real
fire.
self. But I think we need to appreciate that we are in a multi-party dispensation, and there is no such a thing as independence within a multi-party dispensation, because you are talking about group interests, group dynamics. You are talking about positions. So if you think you are going to have independence within multipartism, the independence comes at the level of the caucus, where you come with your view, I come with mine, but at the end of the day, we must harmonize our different independent opinions of a subject and then come up with a collective party position. This happens in all multi-party democracies.
I wish Honorable
Even
Sevadu
within
was following
opposition parties.
American politics.
Even within opposition parties, at the end of the day, there is a minimum program you must pursue as a party to qualify for collective effort and party ideology. That's why parties must have ideologies that are independent and other processes feed into, and at the end of the day, you must project what is the common denominator of your because even within FDC they've got issues where they may not agree, but at the end of the day, what comes on the floor of the house is a harmonized and if you really want to enjoy debates in all these dispensations, the debates are in the caucuses.
Let's talk
be
about
it the opposition, be it the NRM. Even the NRM one is what? There are issues which come and people really engage them.
No problem.
But when you get to the house,
Should that be a
then-
substitute to parliamentary debates in the plenary?
No, but you see, personally, actually, I get to a point where I wish we had remained in the movement, in the individual merit thing. I was a member of parliament, and I can declare my interest here that I enjoyed parliament during the individual merit, because you could have one person bringing a technical issue and swaying the entire house on the basis of technicalities and everything. But now when you come to multipartism and party positions,
I'm sorry to interject here. Do members of parliament represent parties in parliament, or do they represent their own people in the constituents?
Yeah, but you see,
So whose position should they espouse?
No, you see,
Constituents or parties?
No, but you appreciate that these members of parliament are elected by their political parties right from the grassroots.
Who told you that?
No, you see, people go through voters. No, wait.
I think
No, I think
Maybe that's not open.
we need
Might not
to
be
appreciate the
exhausted.
principle that we have parties right to the grassroots.
Okay.
And people go through party primaries and the support base of the party.
Okay, we might
There are
have
other people who may vote you who are not essentially your party, but they vote they vote you knowing you are NRM. And even when you go to the party, you know you pronounce yourself and the support. So that is the multipartism, and we either practice it to the letter or we totally abandon it. But that is what it
You
entails.
introduced two words at the start of your contribution on that specific point: rebellion versus independent. Bernard Mujas, the LC5 chairman in Bali, member of the NRM, going to dance on the podium at an opposition party function. Is that rebellion or independent?
No, I think we need,
Very briefly.
we need to distinguish what is partisan and what is against you. I mean, if he's got a party and it belongs to party Y, I mean, at a human relation level, I will go to attend any function of a friend. He's a DP. If he got a function in his home and invited me as someone who will do panel work here, I would go, and I would be very proud to even declare that NRM, but at personal level, we are friends. I think we need to aggregate our politics beyond simplistic considerations.
Let me depart
an
and
opposition
disagree.
function is
Let
no
me
problem.
depart and disagree with my two brothers in the studio. the praise singing about Parliament as an indication of independence. I think it is not. The simple truth is the executive has done such a lousy job.
What do you mean?
And the only thing that they can do is make Parliament look better. You saw two ministers disagreeing and quarreling on the plenary, on the floor of the House. Mr. Dujanga and Mr. Hassan Kajara.
Yes.
They have done such a lousy job. And that in effect makes Parliament look better. I think that this Parliament must very quickly get into a hope restoration process. Ugandans have lost hope in Parliament, and they are being seen as blood-sucking people who are just sucking this economy of money and mismanaging our affairs. We need to restore the confidence of the people in Parliament.
Okay.
This Parliament has a golden opportunity to do that. They should not lose it. Secondly,
but people have confidence in Parliament, otherwise they would never have voted MPs.
That's all right.
Secondly, well, maybe
let's move forward.
Secondly, I mean, when President Museveni was inviting MPs to go to his home, his country home, he said he was detoxicating them from the Kanyahamba toxins, referring to the lecture MPs got in the induction week.
Yes.
I think that there is a lot of distrust still between Parliament and the executive, especially the NRM. And that relationship has to be built. This Parliament has not, in my view, exhibited the independence that we want them to have.
Or you want them to be tougher?
What we have today is Parliament looking better because the executive has just been lousy in the first months of his tenure. Simple.
That's where I brought in the independence and the rebellion. I think he's alluding to the Parliament being rebellious, but Parliament must work with the executive. They have different roles, but they are complementing one another.
Right.
And I think imagining that they will always be confrontational is not the right thing to do. We need to cultivate a code of operation that allows them to complement one another, and when they do so, it does not make them less independent than they are supposed to.
The executive should not run rough shoulders on Parliament. Parliament must be accorded the independence they need to do their job. That's exactly why I think that parliamentary debate and discussions should not be taken to caucuses.
All right.
Because members of Parliament represent their people in Parliament. They do not represent parties.
This is a multi-party.
Let's move forward. Let's go.
I think this one doesn't really. You should say whether we need multipartism or we don't.
We'll talk
so
about
that we go back to an arrangement that would discourage caucuses.
We'll discuss that.
But as long as you have parties in the House,
the
caucuses are always there.
Let's go straight to Entebbe. Mr. Mayanja, the high State House budget, 150 billion shillings for 1 year. That means about 440 million shillings every day.
You know, I was looking at that story when it came out, and I said, wow, I think the presidency is the dinosaur in our economy.
What do you mean?
Well,
maybe it's not even enough.
Of course, they are going to come back and ask for supplementaries. But I was looking at some items in that budget.
Yes.
And I was amazed. For example, they are duplicating these items. But let me give you one. They say that in a State House, they have to have special meals and drinks.
Yes.
And they are going to spend about 1.3 billion shillings.
How do you break that
Which
down?
means that they are going to spend on meals and drinks in a day 3.56 million. In a day, 1 day.
3 million shillings on meals every day.
3.56.
That's how many people eating at State House every day.
Well, I don't know how many people are going to use this, but it is really very despicable.
Can I give some information?
Let me finish. You come. Then you look at they have things like buying new vehicles.
Yes.
I think the presidency has enough vehicles.
You think
when we see the president moving, he has like 30 vehicles in his convoy. But they are saying they are going to spend about 5.2 billion on buying vehicles. This is really very, very bad. Then they talk about president traveling outside and president traveling inland. And these are colossal sums of money they are talking about. Then you talk about other things like, you have bought vehicles, then you say maintenance of vehicles of State House, then another 160 million for maintenance of machinery and equipment, then another 2.3 billion for maintenance. What is this? This is duplication of the highest order, and I think Parliament the parliament, whatever committee on the economy should look into this, scrutinize it, and really they justify every single cent being really asked for. But we are going to, well, Ugandans are going to see more of this, because President Museveni is not going to stop asking for money. I know that in the next 4 months they are going to get back to parliament asking for
money might run out.
But the presidency should know that we are in such very bad economic situation.
What do you think they should do? The money ran out. They should go and hang us.
We should live within our means. We should be considerate.
Buy cassava.
We should be considerate of the economic malaise we are in, and you don't
sugar prices have gone up
luxuriously like this. It is going to be
Honorable Sebaru. I mean, I've just been from the figure you just mentioned, 3.5 million shillings on meals per day. That means if they're buying a plate of food at 35,000 shillings, they're feeding 100 people every day, 365 days a year. Honorable Sebaru, you come from the NRM.
I think not only coming from NRM, I'm conversing
also a
with
patriot.
some of the operations of the state. For instance, when you have special meals lined up as an item within State House. State House is not about the family. It's not just the family. You know, this includes state banquets.
Yeah, but you can't feed 100 people every day for 365 days a year.
I mean, when you have a state banquet, I mean, you've got...
You talk about 1,000 people to compensate for the days when you don't have it?
Not necessarily. I think we need to take this to some good level of debate. When you have state banquets, like when you host presidents, when you have visiting heads of states coming and you have state dinners and all that, those are the kind of special meals one is talking about. And on that such a kind of banquet, if you...
The wine needs to flow.
Yeah, definitely.
Red and white.
What I want to bring into discussion, it's not just the unity of the family. It is a accumulation of different activities, the kind of the kind of different groups that the president
can't we forego this?
Foreign dignitaries.
Yes.
You must budget for this kind of thing, because when you have, diplomacy is to do with reciprocity.
Yes.
You don't go to pay a visit to
they feed you well.
X, they give you a level of hospitality, and when you come back you can't reciprocate. There are those certain aspects of diplomacy.
I mean, said when you come to my country,
but when it comes to the figures, that could be a different matter. But I just don't want us to degenerate to a level of debate as if this is for the principle and a few people around, so that you divide it and say every day. No. It is much more. It is much more than that.
The basis for calculating.
At this level, I really want us to take it to be a little more sophisticated.
How about
when dealing with
the fact that
they must be at this level?
All right, Mr.
Edmond, let me speak on behalf of the ordinary Ugandans, not defend a particular party.
Yep.
We do agree that our head of state needs to have a good state house. We do agree that he needs to have good welfare. He needs to be able to keep his guests. That is a principle we agree with. What we don't agree with is that we are living in tough economic times. We are getting more money to one office, while teachers on the other hand are asking for money, and we are not giving it to them.
Yes.
I think that the expenditures of State House must reflect the general economic situation in this country.
So
we cannot have people going hungry. We cannot have people dying of preventable diseases, while State House is hogging, the word is hogging, if you like, the word is hogging billions of shillings, taxpayers' money, in funding the office or the home of the head of state. I think that is unfair, that is insensitive to our hundreds and hundreds of teachers who walk every day to school to teach our children. I think we need to be sensitive. Secondly, there is a whole national development plan. People were supposed to plan for this country. There is a ministry, a minister in charge of planning.
Yes.
What happened to the days of planning? When planning was
they've planned out.
Why do we always come back for budgets after budgets, supplementary budgets? It therefore indicates a high level of physical indiscipline or recklessness at some point. If what you're budgeting for, because you see, once the budget is read and approved, you're consulted, you're told what do you need for the next financial year. If you give them what you need, that is what is budgeted. Time and again, State House has come back for supplementary budgets. It's an indication of poor planning, indiscipline, and recklessness of spending in State House that must be checked and checked urgently.
So give them 300 billion to make things easy.
We have planned for State House time and time again. Budgets have been read, money has been allocated. That money has never at any one point of this government been enough. Why? The problem is financial indiscipline that people in government have complained about. I've read the budget remarks from the Minister of Finance. They complain every year about physical indiscipline, especially what they always had is that especially State House.
So maybe they should begin to cut, to be a bit spendthrifts. The Queen, when she didn't have money,
I think
she said she'd have a very small wedding wedding for her son, and she spent only $48 million.
I'm really at
she couldn't afford the
I'm really at pains here, but I think I do agree with Tamale Mirundi, at least for once on this one,
right? So
that members of parliament must begin to stamp their foot down and say enough is enough. No.
That's something we use.
But even before you go to members of parliament, this budget is definitely the logistics and the process of initiating the budget is a function of the civil service. So I think maybe you need to get the civil service to defend the genesis of some of the figure that they come up with, because at the end of the day they do justify these expenditures, given past experiences. So if in case they budget and at one point they find that the money is not enough, maybe at some point their budget was not realistic.
Unfortunately,
I think they need to be engaged.
Unfortunately, the guys who send these budgets are the ministers.
Mr. Mayanja, but these are not their budgets. These are budgets of the civil servants. Although they are defended by honorable ministers.
We're still failing to get a cure all for the economy. The government said that when the NRM MPs went into there, they said they should cut the country into 18 zones, and then things will begin to get better.
Well, we have seen so many programs of that nature. We have seen members of parliament given money to go and monitor NADS. We have seen members of parliament doing so many things, but again, that is not going to solve anything, because this is duplication. What they are going to do is first of all to get taxpayers' money and spend it.
What should we do? Talk to us about that.
I think what we need to do really is to make systems work. If you want to monitor what NADS do, you have officials there down. You have the RDCs, and they are there to monitor the implementation of government programs. You have the agriculture extension workers. They should be deployed as low as the sub-county level. They should go and do that work. But members of parliament going there, what do they know about rural development, some of them?
Mr. Nicholas Opio, again on the economy, somebody has said it slaps into the State House budget that the State House needs a lot of money because it has taken up a lot of roles of the other departments. What should we do to heal this economy? Talk to us.
Of course, the truth is that State House is a mirror of all government systems. There is a desk officer for every ministry, for every department of the state, and then that I think is a problem. I think we need to dismantle that kind of system and give our technical people their space to operate.
What should we do to break the economy?
Secondly, I think that the problem is not an absence of policies. We've had policies. We've given them different names. PMA.
Excellent ones.
Excellent names. Bonabagawale, I can't even pronounce it. The names have been there.
We need to start cutting on administrative costs.
Two things. We've got to begin to spend wisely.
Okay.
And spend in the right areas of the economy.
And corruption
we've got to plug the loopholes of excesses. We've got to stop corruption. We've got to stop physical indiscipline in this country.
Let's hear from the House. Honorable Sevaru, what's your cue?
No, I think this whole idea that was that came up with at State House was simply, it's a very good thing. And I can say it is the best thing that ever happened.
The 18 zones.
The timing was good because these guys have just assumed their office, and it was simply to define their role.
Okay.
Leadership in the socio-economic transformation of the country. Because wherever they are, they need to sensitize their constituents, they need to mobilize them, they need to encourage them to engage in household projects that bring household income. Until we sort out the issue of household income, then all these other indices that we have, if they are not translated into the household, then we have a problem.
But
and
never
the MPs have a role to play at their level of constituents and with their electorate.
It can never be handled mechanically.
We have to end here. Thank you very much.
This was very systematic. And there is even a position paper on the same.
Thank you. Honorable Mike Sebalu, Ghana representative at the ELA, Mr. Nicholas Opio, social and political analyst, Mr. Vincent Manja, Deputy SG of the DP. Thank you very much for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond Chis. To have a very blessed weekend. Up next, we have the news in English. Do stay tuned to Radio 1.
Let's talk about the home of your dreams and how you plan to finance it. Let's discuss money, location, and time frames, and whether you plan to build it or purchase it or renovate it. Let's make it possible for you to